We
We
are
are
live.
live.
En vivo y en directo.
What's up, y'all? What's going on? Good to have you all here for the show. November 22nd, 2020. I feel like we're basically doing a daily podcast at this point, but it's all good. It's the weekend. It's start of the week. I guess technically Sunday, day one of the week. I have guests with me tonight. I have Zero Cool RF.
What
homie.
up?
I have Sebi, who's with us in spirit
Yeah.
and in audio, but not in the physical. We got Moose, and we have Tyrone from Tech Life. You guys are amazing. Thanks for being here.
Yo.
All right, man. So, a very respected individual within wireless network technology news and reporting, journalist, proposed the concept that we're going to take a look at tonight. We have the perfect people. All right. We have people within the industry. We have people who are, I don't know, maybe the most committed YouTube creators to network technologies. We got the perfect blend of individuals here to discuss this. So what I want to do is I want to frame tonight's topic. If we look at Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile as leveraging certain types of frequency and spectrum, and we look at how they plan to deploy and their approaches and execution and spending, all this great stuff. If we take each of the, I'll call them like key cogs in 5G. Really, it's 2.5 gigahertz N41. It's 3.5 gigahertz, which is CBRS. I know initially it's going to be LTE, but we have to qualify it because the end game is 5G for CBRS. So, and then the C-band, which is going to be the best thing since sliced bread, in my opinion, you know, because of, I just see it working in so many different ways. Private networking, consumer wireless, enterprise, you know, the whole shebang. So we're going to take a look at these key items, those three different mid-band frequencies, and the three wireless providers that will leverage them. We're going to take a look at indoor and outdoor usage. We're going to look at propagation characteristics, range, distance, tower density, potential, you know, those things all in considerations. Licenses by region, whether it's contiguous, discontiguous, bandwidth, channel size. I want to look at the whole thing, interference potential, you know, how effective it's going to be in deployment, you know, how soon. I think that matters too, as we kind of like have the race for 5G. It's actually, it's not a race. Imagine running a race where you don't know where the finish line is and it hasn't even started yet. That's where we're at right now.
Exactly. It's like T-Mobile is like doesn't know if it's like a turtle or a rabbit.
or the dinosaurs.
Some days it's both.
or it's Reptar, dinosaurs, cars. I mean, who knows, dude? Layer cakes, Betty Crockers, the whole thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right,
Hey,
y'all.
we got Reckless from The Verge tweeting this is quote unquote 5G, and he's only getting, you know, under 100 download speed. Of course, I would be upset too if I didn't know what was going on. Right? They have the
Sure.
icon, but that means nothing, right? The icon means nothing.
Yeah, the icon is not.
nothing. Yeah.
It's not indicative of a quality of a connection. It's indicative of an icon that
have.
essentially is like, I mean, it could say anything. I mean, you could program it to say anything if you felt so, you know.
So, I mean, at what speed are we going to say, okay, this is a 5G connection? Is it anything above 500 megabits per second or above a gig? I mean, where do we go from here?
I love the question.
Above 400, I would say.
No, and I'll tell you why. Because we have places like Australia, we have places like Inglaterra, aka UK. We have places like South Korea that they're pushing with 100 megahertz channel over a gig. That I know Sneed's been talking about this for a long time. Sneed, what do you think that a gig is the standard now?
No, I actually don't think we really, to be responsible with a generational technology, you really can't use speed as the metric. I mean, it should have a certain standard of speed, but what's going to happen there is 450 wouldn't qualify if 500 was the standard. But what's really the difference between 450 and 500?
Not much.
So the FCC is kind of like circulating around that it should be 200 to 250. I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just don't see, because here's what's going to happen. I think latency needs to be included in that metric as well. I think it needs to be, there needs to be some sort of like a checkpoint, because if you're getting a 15 latency, we've been getting that on LT for a couple of years.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So little touchy, depends how you frame it. But yeah, I mean, I think we'd like a nice clean number, gigabit speed. That would make it very easy. 1 gig speed qualifies as like it would be awesome if it could be so simple.
Yeah, but it isn't.
I would love to have that, because here's the thing, if the FCC does a couple things. If the FCC sets the 5G threshold at 1 gigabyte, let's say, that does a couple things. It gives them more money for the universal fund to invest for those universal funds that the FCC gives out to the wireless and cable providers, but it also pushes those providers to invest more.
Yeah,
in
true.
CapEx.
Yeah, CapEx is big
rollout.
time.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but also the issue is because here in the United States, midband is very limited. I don't know. Compared to other countries, that's another issue of the FCC.
Big shout out to Jar Cohen. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. I'm glad you liked the episode, man. Thank you, and there'll be more to come. As the network builds out over here, I will definitely be following up with more coverage on that. Thank you for the super chat, Justin. Good to see you, Alexis. Mo, what is going on, sir? Good to see you, bro. Salute to you, my brother. Got Sheep, got Lavendi. Good to see you guys. I'm just saying hello to everybody. Dalvin, Josh, Luna, Gene, good to have you guys. All right, so Siova, peace to you, sir. All right, so I think we should start with T-Mobile and the 2.5 gigahertz, and I'll justify my reason. T-Mobile actually has the spectrum on hand. Like, they can deploy it now. So, and we've seen it, and it's already started to deploy, so we can comment on it. Like Tyrone, we could talk about pace in terms of how they're building out. I know, Sebi, you've been seeing it in New Jersey. Zero Cool, you are very, very familiar with this particular asset. So, and then you like how I did that. And then Big Bry, been in network technologies for a while. So, I want to start with 2.5. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is my experience. I've been testing it for a couple of days, and honestly, it's inconclusive. And the reason I'm saying that is because I hear good things about Sprint's deployment of it when it was N41, those first 9 markets dating back to last year in the summer. People tell me it was very nice and very good. I'm testing it as N41 here in the CLE with a 60 megahertz configuration, and it's not very good. It's okay relative to other LTE connections, but it's not impressing me as a 5G technology right now. So I'm withholding my final verdict on it, but as of right now, it's like, let's just call it infancy stages. All right, it's not very good right now. I don't know how good it would be indoors. I haven't tested that yet. But even the outdoor application, I tested it from like about a mile to a mile and a half. It's very touch and go. It works from a mile, but then once you push 1.25, 1.3, 1.5 miles, the signal strength degrades considerably, and then the speeds correspond. It goes from 300 megabits down to like 150. So just by going slightly over a mile, the speed, gets reduced in a big way. So in my opinion, it's the most promising because it's so close to reality now, but it just hasn't been very good in my testing. Zero Cool, you're right next to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's for T-Mobile. It's what is it, right? We got to come back to the basics, kind of. It's new. It's new spectrum for them. They don't have it rolled out everywhere in every market, right? They just don't. So basically, everybody's experience, as you say, is going to be, it's going to be different. When I was in LA, I was working in LA, everybody, including myself, had an expectation of how it should perform. One because we had a density.
Mm-hmm.
We had a huge density in LA and also in other areas like Phoenix, Arizona, to have that rolled out, right? So, I think it just depends on those factors. It depends on density. It depends on off capacity sites, right? You need that. It also depends on how don't look at it just from like the network perspective, but also look at it from a user perspective. How many people are on a band 41 device? How many people can you say, can we take a room of 10 saying, let's hook them up with the band 41 device, send them out and do some speed testing? It's all about user perception. You can't just, it works both ways, right? From the network and from the customer perspective. But for me, I'm sure like with everybody here, band 41, we need it, massively deployed more and more areas. We need density. We need off capacity sites. We need it to be optimized more. And I think, with that, they'll make the user experience that much more amazing.
Sebi, go ahead, sir.
I definitely agree with Circle RF. I mean, it's really true. I mean, it all depends on, because before T-Mobile, they only have like very small like bands, like they only have like first it was only band 4 and band 2, nothing else. Later they received low band 12, and recently band 71. Right now they recently received like band 41. So there is new. They have to optimize. Hopefully, I don't know if they are in good terms with the Sprint team, since the Sprint has the most knowledge about band 41
Sure.
and 41. I don't know if they're in good terms or not. I'm not sure. But it depends also because if they work together, they can find a better solution, especially with the upcoming upgrade, especially on NR. Especially on 5G, like the MIMO, beamforming, all that stuff.
It's a good point you bring up about the collaboration in leveraging what Sprint has in knowledge and experience is going to be crucial. It's going to it'll expedite the performance. It'll make it better, faster.
Yeah, because I have more experience into optimizing M41.
That collaboration starts January 1st.
Oh, okay.
For real. No, I'm being serious. It's January 1st.
Very good.
Okay,
Very good.
That's props. I mean, that's really great news. I mean,
I'll get to do some stuff, right? Just sitting around.
There you go.
Yeah, but that's great. I mean,
yeah,
that will help a lot.
Well, if you think about it, and Nikki brings up a good point. PCS has a slightly different propagation characteristic. If you look at just the frequencies, right, Nikki? It's 1.9, right? It's 1900. So this is a little bit, higher frequency. So it's not going to be as effective for range. But I'd say with some newer technologies, a couple little tweaks, we could improve the range on 2.5 to get it to PCS level.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. That's this. So just for a little teaser here. The band 41 2.5 range will match the 1900 when the MIMO is rolled out.
Very good.
Because you had, like I said, you had the 16 streams that were able to optimize that to kind of match, kind of like how an HPUE would with 1900, and that was like the first goal when HPUE was launched. Correct. So we were able to actually optimize that, and plus, not only that, we were able to get the range right with beamforming. Yes, which is so true and so good to do.
Let's get Tyrone from Tech Life. Let's get him going on this topic.
Yeah, so again, it's an interesting topic, right? And I think you displayed that in your video this morning, Sneed. At the urban level, we can expect the network to perform decent, if not great.
Mm-hmm.
So now the way social media is, everything's more exposed. So as we start seeing the top 20, the top 50 markets, and then the top 100 markets get this spectrum, people in other markets that fall outside of that are going to be like, well, when is this going to come to my area? Jealousy kicks in, stuff like that. But then you still have, and Sneed, you've mentioned this many a times, and people consider it bashing and whatnot. But that PCS grid that everyone speaks of, the density has been built in the urban markets. Then you get to the suburban level and the network gets thinner. Mm-hmm. And then once you get to the rural areas or even outside of city limits, the network gets even thinner.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how that is going to perform outside of the urban areas. In my opinion, I think the urban areas, they will perform decent. And then, of course, again, we still have that video throttle that'll restrict you from getting the actual performance that the network is doing. I hope sometime next year when they do the plan revamps, they're going to include a premium option that actually allows you to stream fully instead of having that throttle. But yeah, so I think at the urban level, it's going to be decent, if not great. But then once we get to the suburban areas and we get to the rural outside of the city limits, I think it will still be a problem, at least for the next 3 to 5 years, easily.
Go ahead, Moose. Your go. And he's gone. Oh, irony. Alexis says, what do you think about us coming up with a measuring profile that we can use nationally? A measuring profile, yeah, because what that does, it gives you a barometer, right? It gives you some kind of an agreed upon scale.
Yeah, and also improves quality control.
Sure.
Overall.
That's hard to do.
It is
really hard to do.
It is.
Yeah, it's hard to do, but
right back.
I mean,
it would be easy for China, right?
Well, they have most control, but I mean, other countries can do like a similar way, but a way that makes more sense for the companies also to follow. You understand me? Like Europe, in a way.
Yeah.
Just real quick before Moose gets going, we are starting to get reports that AT&T in 2021 is going to start increasing the tower footprint by 51%. So they're going from their normal 3,300 sites per year to 5,000. They're calling it the last stretch before they shut off HSPA. So that's going to boost their coverage, in the suburban and the rural areas tremendously in the next year.
We're going to be seeing massive amounts of macro sites pop up in places where you didn't even expect them to be.
So an area where you had a 3-mile gap between two sour sites, something strategically placed in between?
No, more like let's say 10-mile gap will be reduced to 3 to 4 miles.
It'll change network experiences then
dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Also in Area 51.
in the case of 2.5, keep in mind this was the rule of thumb back in the day. Per every 5 megahertz of spectrum,
go on, Moose.
I think his connection dropped.
Yeah, come on back, Moose. We need you. I was gonna.
You guys hear me?
Now we can.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm literally like at my Wi-Fi is going in and out today. Anyways, so per every 5 megahertz of spectrum, you ideally want to have 80 users per 5 megahertz as a rule of thumb, right? And if we use that same guidelines, right, and we apply that to 60 megahertz of 2.5 that is currently on air in most markets, you can have a maximum of 1,000 users per sector more before things become congested. Okay. What does this mean long term? Again, it's a physics problem. Eventually, there's going to be congestion even on 2.5. I mean, we're already seeing speeds I just recently saw your latest video, Sneed. They're not getting 350 on 2.5 with 60 megahertz at the Walmart, right?
Not according to the specs. Right. What I think is going on here is we have backhaul issues. We have the actual fiber that is getting to these sites is not pushing the spectrum to its maximum potential.
Do you think it's backhaul, or do you think that it's the physics again? Because remember, 60 megahertz.
I can't comment on which one exactly, but the reason I say it could be the backhaul is because if some sites were well optimized but still didn't have the backhaul, we're still seeing a cap of 350 to 400 megabits per second.
It's both, actually. You need to have the backhaul to support the users. That's what. Let me ask you guys something. What is capacity without backhaul?
There is none.
Yeah. What do you keep on saying? What's 100% of nothing?
Nothing.
Right. So you have to have both.
Yeah.
It's just how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zero Cool is absolutely right. So, it is going to be an issue, right? The backhaul is an issue. But then
go ahead. Moose, if you don't mind, tell people what backhaul is. We use that term very loosely, but just let them know.
So I'll put it to like this. So let's say water, right? Let's put it into basic terms. Imagine you have a river, okay? And this river,
I know where this is going.
You have this river that's flowing, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how wide this river is, okay, that is what we're talking about by the backhaul component, right? If you have a very small stream, you can only divide that small stream so many times. But if you have a wider stream, okay, wider stream of water, okay, then you can divide up more to however many endpoints this river, right, the stream is going to go to. So backhaul, usually, 1 gig is a standard. 5 gig is for most CRAN. 10 gig is not the maximum.
It's the cutting.
It's the minimum.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. For 5G and NR, you'd ideally want 10 gig backhaul on most macro sites.
Let me just to relate to the backhaul point. Guess what's coming out with pretty soon? Maybe 40. In Q2 or Q3. No, Q2 or Q3. Anybody want to take a guess? Voice over NR.
Q2 or Q3?
Oh.
Well, no, I'm just saying that we're trying to get the standard at least rolled out, right? So not deployed, but just rolled out. But I'm trying to say
something within the black hole.
Yeah. So for the backhaul piece, basically it's you need the reason why you need the 10 gigabyte minimum. You're gonna have high capacity voice throughput, just like how we have right now.
Sure, high definition
voice, just like this.
Wideband
Channels, wideband codecs going over voice. A lot more wideband codecs than what your current VoLTE is right now. See, the voice over NR, if you lose that connection, it's going to fall back on VoLTE. Okay, it's not going to drop or anything. But the rate of connection for voice over NR, it's going to be like in the exact same room. That's how it's going to sound. And you need a very, very high capacity channel. And you also need high capacity backhaul.
So there will be features that are contingent upon having the backhaul to push the capabilities to have the wireless bandwidth, right? So
yes.
I thought Moose did a good job. That's a pretty good analogy. See, I always looked at it. If I was going to say it was a river, to me, it's the source of the river, the headwaters. The melting of the snow, the rain coming down from the mountain, the rapids, the 10 gigs per second backhaul, the internet, the fiber, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's how I always looked at it. And then obviously with distance, right? So you run this fiber, you got this tower grid, you're trying to space it out through all these streams and stuff like that. Yeah, I totally get the example.
I'll give you one more reason why it's important. Very, very soon, most likely next year, I would say, we're going to go to 128 by 128, a multiple user MIMO.
Ooh.
That's already a fact. What do you think that's going to need?
Well, that's going to need incredible throughput of backhaul, but it's going to theoretically that doubles capacity because we're running.
Yes, it does.
We're 64, right?
64 by 64. So if you expand that to 128 by 128, each radio head is effectively doubling your downlink and uplink throughput streams, right?
And
so you're having
an
efficiency. So basically, you're especially for the new modem chipsets that's coming out, right? So that's gonna that's like having 10. It's like the equivalent of having 10 cable lines in your house versus we only have one today. Think of it like that. Just think of it like that. And
wow.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think, based on T-Mobile's potential, when we look at I don't want to call it a regional holding. It really is national, in my opinion. It's national. It's just how much is available in each market in some cases and so on. I think also the rate at which they deploy, I've said several times previously, T-Mobile runs the risk based on their CapEx of becoming a regional powerhouse, meaning they can have some really incredible cities. Tyrone spoke to, these urban settings where they've got the tower grid to support it. They'll upgrade those sites and they'll have incredible speed. But I look at the CLE and I'm like, they'll be good, but they won't be exponentially better than anyone else. If what I'm testing is what I'm going to see,
For now, until next year.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate the super chats, bro. I saw the super sticker, and I saw the second one.
So T-Mobile will eventually scale the backhaul to match what's actually on air. So we're going from 60 megahertz. Apparently, Neville's saying 80, but we all know how Zero Cool RF feels about that. But that's
it's supposed to come in December. That's 8 days away.
Right? Yeah. We're gonna eat turkey and we're there, dude.
I doubt that's gonna happen. That'll probably happen sometime next year. But here's my thinking on that overall picture of the backhaul. So me and Nick talk about this all the time. That backhaul from a operational expense, since it's on a third party, is going to get massively expensive for T-Mobile. Remember, Verizon and AT&T are rolling out their own fiber, which is going to long-term save them a huge amount of money. Is T-Mobile in discussions to potentially roll out their own fiber? Sure. I'm sure that has been discussed somewhere in the meetings. But short term, that's going to increase their operational expense tremendously.
It ain't anytime soon, man. It ain't anytime soon. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm just going to say that SprintNet is dead, actually. I seriously think they will use SprintNet as their own fiber.
Where is SprintNet available for backhaul?
Well, Sprint and Quest go along together. That's usually what their backhaul is they have a partnership with Quest.
How much is the national footprint on that?
Not much.
Not much?
Not much.
No, very, very limited.
Very limited, man.
Yep. This is when everybody was talking about SprintNet, I was scratching my head. It's just not. It won't scale. Like they don't have the assets. This is why AT&T has the advantage when it comes to 7 carrier aggregation and so on, because they can actually push all of those carriers. Right. Yeah. They actually have it. And the fact that and everybody is worried about AT&T about their debt. Don't be, because their asset to debt ratio is still fine. They own everything, right? They have multiple arms and tentacles of business, and it's fiber included in that. And they will continue to expand their fiber. That's a long-term investment. They will not lose.
Yep.
And what's improving Verizon's proposition is the fact that they have expanded their Fios, which means they're expanding their fiber. You know what I'm saying? It's indicative that they're really focused on that build.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, as Verizon expands their fiber with the company that they own, if they choose to, even in places like El Paso where they never had Fios before, they can technically now offer Fios if they want to. They're already putting their fiber here for the macro sites. If they want, they can start expanding that Fios into these markets that they're adding their own fiber.
They will, and they will also install millimeter wave hubs.
Yeah,
and they will blast those suckers at apartment complexes, condos, the whole shebang, townhouses. They don't care. They're going to do what they can wherever cities allow them to. They've got an entire segment of the CLE every other block with millimeter wave nodes. That city is telling them, go ahead, bring it on.
Yeah.
The 2.5 has great potential. The 60 megahertz channel, I call it unofficial 5G, because it'll look very different a year from now. So I'm gonna withhold my conclusions about it until probably April to really make an assessment. I always said I'm gonna give T-Mobile a year from when the merger closed, which is April. So we'll see what that looks like. I want to talk a little bit about the concept of CBRS. I'm going to save C-band for the end. So CBRS, for those of you out there, you've heard the term. It's 3.5 gigahertz in frequency. It's a mid-band qualifying spectrum asset, just like 2.5 gigahertz. It's a little bit higher in frequency. The issue right now is that it's low power. So if you wanted to transmit it, you can do it a couple of different ways. There's licensed spectrum, which they just had one part of the auction done. There's going to be a second CBRS auction a year from now. That will be for 100 megahertz of licensed spectrum. You can also deploy unlicensed CBRS, which is what's currently deployed in some cities. Verizon has been leveraging it. I hear AT&T as well. They've been deploying that in 20 megahertz channels. I've seen 20. What have I seen? I think I've seen 20 and 20 by Verizon.
20, yeah.
Okay,
right.
Along with like a band 2 or a band 66 or
correct,
both.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so and it's fast. 400, 500 megabits per second. So the propagation characteristics are not good because it's low power. They're not transmitting like it's from a macro site. I've only seen them on rooftop sites and small cells. So right away, this is not what CBRS is going to be. CBRS is destined to be a high power transmission, and I really do think that by the time it's done with the LTE phase, it will be DSS'd. In fact, I think within a year. So 2022, January 2022, we'll be hearing rumblings of CBRS getting DSS'd. Dynamic spectrum sharing, it'll be used for LTE and 5G. I really feel that, and it's also going to be high power at that point, in my opinion. So at that point, it changes everything. If it's high power, it now qualifies as a macro site game changer that Verizon can leverage in urban cities, right? The urban setting beyond a block or two, right? It's no longer just like Wi-Fi anymore. It's actually going to be a legit game-changing experience for people. And they can even, with 30 or 40 megahertz, which is what they got in the auction in most markets, along with the unlicensed for an additional 40, for example. So one channel 40 megahertz licensed, 2 channels unlicensed puts them at 80 megahertz. You know what I'm saying? So to me, with high power, CBRS can be as effective as C-band.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Especially because the good part about CBRS is that you're able to do not just the 80 megahertz, but you're able to do different RF configurations for different needs. Or for example, like mountainous areas, you can put different small cells and hard to reach areas. You can adjust the RF to where it's beneficial for markets that are just hard to get any signal through. Especially if you're more bandwidth at next year at that time, that just makes your signal levels, especially trying to reach hard to reach areas is extremely beneficial.
Thanks for the super chat, Jimmy. Sebi, you want to come on in on this?
Sure. Okay. In this case, CBRS, I would say it depends also on the power limitation. If they take out the power limitation, it will be a huge step up especially in capacity for newer devices. It will help a lot, especially since I don't think CBRS has like any interference issues like 2.5, right?
Seems right. Yeah, I've never heard anybody mention anything major with CBRS.
Yeah. So if they take out like the power limitations, actually will help a lot, especially in coverage and everything. Obviously, the coverage wouldn't be the same until there are like some upgrades in terms of the technology behind the panels, like 2.5.
Go ahead, Zero.
Right.
Looks
Yeah.
like you want to
So
get on this.
here's the problem with jacking power way high in 2.5. What does it have for other frequencies in the 2.4 range? Bleed
Wi-Fi.
over. Bleed over. So you think Wi-Fi. What else is in that range? Bluetooth. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, the CBRS spectrum and with the C band at 3.7, it's good clean spectrum. You really don't have barely interference from adjacent users. As Nicky's just pointed out, it can go nearly a mile.
If it Zero Cool, if it got to 1.5 miles with higher power,
Yeah.
that's a winner. That's what
Of course.
that's a winner.
Yeah.
That's really all that's needed from
That's-
3.5.
Exactly, and that's exactly where they're trying to get it to. That's what's going to happen. But in order to increase the power, they have to, from the FCC, they're going to have to get that additional 100 megahertz next year. More bandwidth allows them to increase the power, and to also carrier aggregate. Think about this: if you're carrier aggregating an 80 megahertz channels, look out.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've said my prediction was, the first carrier to do a 100 megahertz 5G channel nationwide,
Right.
they win. Consumer wireless, they win.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say about Nicky's comment here, he says if they lift the power restrictions, perhaps 1 to 1.5 miles. I think that's the end game for CBRS. Actually, any midband beyond the 2.5 is. I know T-Mobile's going to try to push the limits on 2.5. It's just it makes sense that they would do their best to try.
It's hard to do. You really can't because here's the thing. Look at the frequency range where Bluetooth is at. It's at the upper end of where our 2.5 is. Think about it. If we jack up the power, look how many devices use Bluetooth. Cars.
Well, I don't.
It's just it was a huge interference. It would suck.
I'm with you. I don't think the solution is just the power. I think the solution.
I
think the solution is in different technologies, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So they've already said they want to move away from small cells. That would have been huge. That would have helped tremendously to stagger some small cells here and there. Would have helped. 2.5 would have made sense in that application.
I can't tell you how many Sprint small cells we have deployed.
Save the day.
It is a 10-to-1 versus what T-Mobile macros are. The grid is just
wow.
Actually, to tell you the truth, we deployed way more. It's like 100 times more than what Verizon's got now in a city. It's amazing, but it's just not the strategy of T-Mobile right now.
Jamie, I'll comment on this 2.5. If T-Mobile does grand scale TV and home internet, the 2.5 will be congested in 2 years. Seriously, you will go from 500 megabit. You will go from 500 megabit per second average to 50.
Yeah.
With 2 years of home internet and TV.
Yep.
Seriously.
Yep.
Even at 140 megahertz, 100 megahertz channel. Seriously. Because they want to do T-Mobile, they want to do T-Vision and home internet through it. So that's gonna be tough, bro. There will be at least 3 big auctions for T-Mobile to make waves in over the next 10 years for midband. At least 3 big ones. I see them making noise with the 6 gigahertz. I see them making noise with C-band a little bit. I think they'll get some. But there are more auctions that are up and coming. I actually think they're going to do something with CBRS next year. They might pick their spots with C-band, but they're not going to let CBRS go. They'll get involved in that next 100 megahertz of that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. You can't sit around for 10 years. You'll die.
With 2.5, no, because everything is upgrading. Even IoT. IoT it needs a lot of bandwidth and also low latency.
Well, the thing about IoT, Sebby, is just the sheer volume of devices, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We're talking about hundreds of thousands of devices connected within a 10 square mile range of New York City. right?
Yeah,
Or
24
something,
hours.
right? It would be crazy. Just think about a city that has connected security systems, surveillance,
Camera,
cameras, lights,
Alexa,
everything.
Google, Apple.
Yep.
Anything.
Hey, Tyrone, did you want to add anything to the CBRS situation?
Yeah, I think the situation is the carriers now, via their marketing, are pushing a 5G logo on us, and then some have even gone as far as pushing 6G R&D already on us, which is like hold up, like wait a minute. LTE still has a leg to stand on. Nick sent in a speed test earlier with CBRS that achieved 800 megabits per second, and that's why I say when Neville, starts having an opinion on Open RAN, saying that it's not good, or he says DSS is not a great technology, you still have to cater to the LTE audience for a very long time. There's going to be a transition that's going to take a while to move people off of the LTE networks.
3G is still a thing, right, Tyrone?
Yes, it's still a thing.
Also
so
2G,
I wish it
Edge,
wasn't. I really do.
So
CDMA.
there's a transition period that we are potentially going through as Verizon shuts off 3G and AT&T shuts off HSPA in 2022. But we have to go about it in a correct way. I think they have to start maneuvering people over. The 5G logo early on, I think that's not a good way to go about it, but I guess T-Mobile kind of forced that issue, so the other carriers had to adapt. But I think DSS, I guess, is a good way to start. I know it doesn't perform, but it sets Verizon up for a better future in terms of how they're rolling out millimeter wave, how dense their network has gotten on the macro level since 2017 sets them up beautifully for any higher band spectrum, CBRS, C-band. Here at least they're starting to get within a mile apart, the macro sites. So the penetration issue won't be a big deal. For T-Mobile, on the other hand, I think you mentioned it greatly there. The small cells would have helped them greatly, especially since it takes a long time to do indoor solutions. So if you bring small cells more into the deeper urban areas, they could potentially penetrate some of those buildings for you. But, that's like Zero Cooler said, that's not a strategy right now at all for T-Mobile. That's not even on any of the maps, future planning, nothing. Right now, it's all about macro integration.
Well, I think that's an indicator as to the truth about T-Mobile's real financial situation. Don't listen to what they say. Just watch what they do. They have moved completely away from small cell applications. Those have to be micromanaged. Sorry, pun intended. Those need attention. They need installation. They need optimization. They don't want to do that. They want to just manage these large sites and rooftop sites from a macro scale. They don't want to micromanage anything. And that's because that's time consuming and it's going to take additional funding to do it. Also, they are closing stores, they are laying off employees, and they're paying them less. Everything is a sign that they're financially not able to do what they want to do right now. And they can't increase pricing because it's locked into the concessions of the merger. So they're trying to find new ways to bring in new revenue streams with T-Vision and home internet. And they have to be careful with both because both of them could tank their network. So literally they've got a queue of people waiting to get home internet. We can put 20 people on home internet on this site. 20 people just signed up for it. See you when we add a carrier. See you when we add more bandwidth to this tower site. We'll get the next 20 on, right? When they widen 60 megahertz to 80, or they widen it to 100 or whatever the case may be. Or as soon as they get the 5G routers with the correct modem hardware, then they can start doing N41 on those sites, and then it'll be a little bit different. But I'm telling you guys, they're not telling you the truth because they can't. They cannot jeopardize what investors think about them.
It's a waiting game. It really is. It's just you wait, and you wait some more.
Here's a question that I had, Zero Cool IF. As you mentioned, Sprint's small cell rollout was very deep, and so as T-Mobile has, of course, completely put a halt to any small cells, How does that look, say 5 years from now, as Verizon, of course, is ramping up immensely on the small cells? AT&T is going to do the same. They're going all out on C-RAN. They're even prioritizing the C-RAN over the macro builds right now. That's how they're trying to achieve their densification. It seems.
Yes.
How does that play a factor in T-Mobile as they get started at a later time in terms of the prime real estate for the small cells? Because a large part of that is going to be taken up by Verizon and AT&T.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about small cells are very, very, very hard to. Once customers put like a line of small cells on telephone poles, at 24 feet, right, 18 to 24 feet. The opportunity for other carriers makes it that much more difficult, almost impossible. Now, let me give you the most simplistic terms. T-Mobile small cells is like Swiss cheese right now, okay? But in 5 years, their goal's a little bit different. Their goal's to, like, for example, get in, like, building stadiums, large buildings, large venues to get the small cells in there. Basically the macro site will be like kind of like the backbone to that. It's a little bit different strategy when Verizon and AT&T are going. I get their strategy. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it is what it is. But again, it's like Swiss cheese now, but in 5 years from now, it would be a whole piece of cheese.
A lot of people don't get it, Zero Cool, because it's working for the big two.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't for working for the big two, or if it was difficult, you'd say, well, this is kind of a 50-50 proposition. And This is one of the things I've found frustrating about Neville is he's either stupid or he's lying. And I don't think he's stupid. So he must be lying. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So when he says things like small cells are not what we're going to do and it's ineffective. And when he says things like this is going to come back to haunt Verizon, what? The fact that they're sewing up all the enterprise, how is that going to haunt them? Like these are things that I'm just like, man, this guy he's writing checks. He's got to be careful.
He must have some bad dreams at night,
Yeah, I mean, I think Hans Vestberg is in his head, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and here with the alligator shoes. Yeah.
Right. And here's another thing too that T-Mobile has done. So in some of the markets, not many, but some, where they have higher market share, they have proceeded with small cells, like LA, El Paso. They do have some small cells, but here's the thing: when they were future planning, and I'm sure Zero Cool IF is familiar with these, they started using the strand mounts, and those small cells, the strand mounts, are not very effective, and you can already tell they're not because Verizon and AT&T do not use strand mounts right now in their network. They use C-RAN. Why are the strand mounts ineffective? Well, one, they don't reach very far in terms of the power output, and two, they're really not upgradable other than what's already on the strand mount. Like I asked an engineer, I said, hey, can you upgrade these to millimeter wave? He said, no, the millimeter wave equipment don't fit.
No, you can't. I could actually tell you how those work. So one of the first workouts that we did is actually in New York. You have a lot of strand mounts in New York, a lot of them. So basically, how it works is the strand mounts will take a backhaul provider like Cox or Altice, and that's the backhaul for the strand mount. So we have it's an actual cable modem, right? Mm-hmm. And that feeds the strand mount for the strand mount small cell. They're not upgradable. When the modem goes down, the strand mount goes down, okay? And it's just a horrible deployment, it's really messy, and a lot of nodes can go down at once.
Jimmy. Apple Watts, good to have you. Thanks, Jimmy, for the super chat. Sheep says T-Mobile small cells are only in garbage areas around here. I don't know why. Literally next to a fast T-Mobile tower, they put band 46. I've seen it, and it's but they are putting them in places where they do have high load. They've got a lot of users, so it makes sense. Maybe they're experimental. I like to think that sometimes, like they're like, all right, let's deploy a little band 46. Let's get our feelers out here. Let's see how this thing behaves. Let's track it and check out how far it reaches, who it helps, and stuff like that. But yeah, those are things I've never understood. I never understood the reduction and emphasis on the small cells because I've seen them be effective, and I've seen Verizon literally save their network by doing a 4-carrier aggregation scenario on a small cell. Like they put band 5, they also put up band 2, band 66, and in some cases another mid-band holding. Like I'm like, well, that's perfect, because now you literally added a 300 megabit per second site, to help an apartment complex and to help businesses and whoever's in that area.
So when I was at Verizon, we actually did our small cell deployments. We actually did it in 3 bands. We did 700, PCS, and AWS. That was our first tri-band small cell to be deployed at Verizon. And
they're all 4 now.
Right.
They're all 4 now. Zero color, everything.
I know, yeah, but the first it was 3,
yeah,
and then 4, then 5, right? So it's just that's the thing. Like it's the main, in my opinion, the main purpose of a small cell is not just location, but great carrier aggregation, multiple bands on the small cell. Because think about what you're doing. A small cell is not a macro. So for a small cell, you have to get as much speed in a very, very tight, small space. Okay? So the answer is, how do we get that throughput out to a very, very small amount of users, in a half a mile to a mile radius?
But they're high capacity users, right? They're
high capacity.
You can
users,
see the traffic on the network side, and
these are people at restaurants, in malls, waiting on the street, waiting for an Uber. Mm-hmm. Okay, like the answer is you get as much bands in a single mid-band, a single small cell as you can with carrier aggregation, and that's exactly what Verizon did from the jump.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And here's another thing too. Again, not bashing T-Mobile, just stating the truth. On some of the small cells and the outdoor DAS systems that they have, for whatever reason, Neville Ray has a plan, and that's what he's sticking to. They have not added low band to any of those. And I know what it's essentially meant for, to bring the equipment closer to the user end and in high capacity scenarios. But some of those small cells, if they had low band, it could be a deciding factor of penetrating a building and actually having coverage versus not having coverage.
Yeah. Yeah, they do have trouble in certain buildings. Certain building materials are tough. The only hope from a T-Mobile side is band 71. That's their only option. Band 12 in most instances appears to be 5 megahertz. What kind of capacity would that give you? You would be better off with a 10 megahertz LTE 71 with a 10 megahertz N71. Like that would be nice. Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I and maybe we're questioning things. Maybe we're jumping the gun a little bit, right? Maybe we're putting the carriage before the horse, as they say.
Before we can say what happens.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, I don't know how things will be a year from now, but there have been moves I've questioned where I'm like, they should have did things differently. Like, for example, I think they should have already decommissioned Sprint and did whatever it takes to keep the Sprint customers happy via a free line or a credit or whatever, and then immediately start building out native. That had to happen as soon as possible. Even if you lose those customers, your end game may be to try to get them back later with a higher capacity network and more value. But the Sprint customer has to understand they're a casualty of war. You were involved in a merger.
That's the problem. I mean, most customers don't want to be a casualty of war. They don't. Hey, I'm sorry. Go wait over here while I get pelted by a shotgun or something. No,
especially if you were on the Kickstarter plan.
Yeah, it's a real Kickstarter, isn't it? No.
Right? And they're really dragging that plan through the mud.
Exactly, they are. They really are.
I mean, you can't get upgrades through that plan. You can't add lines through that plan. They don't even want to serve you in the store. If you tell them you have a Kickstarter plan, they will walk away.
Yeah,
they'll be like, I got to go to the bathroom. Oh, it's my lunch. They'll leave you alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks,
exactly.
Big Lou. Appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you. Same to you and the family, man. Thank you very much. And ARG, thanks, bro. Hope the pup is doing well. Hope he's recovering. Thank you for the super chat. So which one is better, DSS or 2.5? DSS is a technology. 2.5 is a spectrum holding, right? It's an actual like asset. Currently, DSS is not very good because it's not being used properly. It's being used to produce a 5G icon. If anything, it may be jeopardizing the efficiency of the spectrum. So DSS will be more effective once channels widen a little bit, and then it's going to be something worth noting. As for now, it's the only way Verizon's getting some semblance of a low band 5G. All right, so yeah, the T-Mobile Kickstart thing is just. I told people cut it out. Don't go running to Best Buy to get a $25 Kickstart. You know, don't go trying to get a $15 Kickstart. You know, whatever. Oh, you know what? You bring up a good point. And John, thank you for the super chat, buddy. Appreciate it from Canada. Thank you, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
that's my stepdad. Thanks, man.
Thanks, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. DSS perfect for 2.5, but look how they're running split radio, right?
Yeah.
So like that's like basically saying we're out of the DSS business. You know what I mean? And actually, you're right. It would be perfect because what if you had a market with 120 megahertz and you just DSS'd all of it and called it a day?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or am I crazy?
Right. No, you're right. I mean, here's the thing with DSS, you just need more spectrum. You need more frequencies, more bandwidth in the game. You just do. DSS works best with lots of frequencies, lots of bandwidth.
Hey, Zero Cool, what do you think about this approach? Kickstart. So, here's your account number. Here's your pin. Kick rocks.
Yeah, they just need to rename the. They just need to like rename the plan to Kick Rocks or Kick Out or Kick Down.
Get a dry erase board that says Kickstart plan ? Bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicia. That's right. Yeah, I just they need to get those customers out of those plans.
Oh man, yeah, that Kickstart nonsense. You guys got to keep in mind, and I think Tyrone, you're very, very in tune with this scenario. Sprint couldn't keep customers. They were having like mass exodus annually. Like every quarter that was reported, bro, like Marcelo stopped meeting with Sprint. Like, the company doing his like earnings reports, there were no meetings at the end. It was so bad that they didn't want to face the music. So giving away lines was a standard practice at Sprint for the better part of the last 3 years. And I remember somebody saying, "Oh, they're adding customers to the expense of not making money." What's the point of adding subscribers when you can't generate a profit? Last I checked, businesses were in business to generate profit and make money. Bro, I remember Sprint shares were down under $4. Call me a liar. Go check.
You're right.
2 months before the merger was approved, it dipped down to like $3.97.
Yep.
Go and check the books.
I remember that day.
I just think behind the scenes, they knew, of course, that this merger was going to be announced way before it actually was announced. They were meeting and talking way before that. And I think what T-Mobile ended up deciding, they were like, look, you can keep the Kickstarter, add as many people as you possibly can. And then when we merge and get this integrated, we're going to try to keep those customers on a more expensive plan, but still incorporate value instead of, having those customers go somewhere else. That may have been the approach that they took. That's the only thing that I can think of, because at $15 a month, you're not making any money off of those people.
At 25, you're not making money.
No.
Not at a priority, not in any type of network access. Like where I mean, there were people actually, Tyrone, that were on taxes. They were getting a free line. They were paying taxes, which could have been $9.
Yeah.
Right. Could have been $8. Could have been $6, depending on your state and your county. I know some people were paying $6.43. They were running out and they were getting the Best Buy option for 25, and then they got it for 35 and 15. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. There's no success there. And then actually, they offered a good value proposition for the consumer. They were giving Tidal, they were giving Hulu, they were giving, a lot of value in their plans and high priority access, right? So they weren't throttling video. And where customers were taking advantage of that were areas where the Sprint network was strong. And those people were thrilled. They had a great experience. They felt like they were getting tremendous value. But the moment you got off the beaten path, the network was spotty, right? And it was trouble, you know?
Yeah.
But if it was good where you lived, man, people loved Sprint, you know?
Yeah. Though Sprint had other throttle, if you remember, like audio, video, games. They had also.
Yeah.
On the small footprint.
Yeah. I don't know, man. We still got to cover C-band. You guys ready? Let's cover C-band quickly.
Yep.
All right. C-band's the one. In my opinion, C-band coming out with 280 megahertz to be publicly auctioned. I think C-band is going to make each carrier great again.
Yes,
All
yes,
right,
it will.
Yeah, I think C-band, because CBRS will be situational. Like, it'll be tremendous in like the top 50 markets. C-band will transcend consumer wireless, right? So my expectation is Verizon to move heaven and earth to get a 100 megahertz channel out of C-band and not have to address consumer wireless capacity outside of just deploying that for a while. So like if they went 2 years without a national spectrum license for consumer wireless, I think they'd be happy with that, right? Like the CBRS that comes out, the next CBRS auction, which has 100 megahertz, Verizon won't have to get 100 of it national, or they'd have to get 60 of it, right? They'd get a piece of it. But what Verizon does in that second CBRS auction is contingent upon what Verizon does with C-band. So my estimation is that Verizon, depending on price, is 100% going to have a 100 megahertz channel. I feel so confident saying that they may not even want anything in the second 180, right? And the reason I'm saying it's the second 180, it's not two separate auctions. It's just there's 100 megahertz that is going to be decommed and repacked and ready for the auction in December. That's the first 100 megahertz, right? It's I think it's Intellisat, Viasat. There's some satellite companies that are repacking it. Okay. Yeah. So those 100 megahertz, if Verizon gets those 100, they don't have to do much, if anything, after that until CBRS. Like, they wouldn't have to be worried about the other 180 megahertz that's being auctioned. They can get 20, they get another 40. I really think they're getting a 100 megahertz channel. That's like a foregone conclusion. I would be surprised if they didn't get 100 off rip, right? They might do 120. Some people are speculating 140, 160. I don't think so. I really do think they're all in on millimeter wave. So they're cool with 100 megahertz of C-band. But that takes us over to what do they do with the rest of the auction? Because then that will dictate what they do with the 100 megahertz of CBRS auction the following
exactly,
December.
Yeah. And not just that. Like, think about what's coming up. You know, hopefully what gets auctioned off in the near future is the 3.1 to 3.3 gigahertz, which I know the FCC is preparing for that. I think it's supposed to be 100 megahertz channels.
Wow.
I know that they have a lot of spectrum to give, and I know the FCC is like trying to get that prepared and everything
before the administration change. That's going to be touchy. That will be touchy.
If Pi could be office 2 more years, they can get it done.
Sure.
It just depends. So I think that's what he's trying to get it done. I know they had some open meetings last year about it, and I know they're trying to get it done. So
the one that was going to be like for public use, something around
public
that.
access. Yeah.
Yeah.
That AT&T was against, if I remember correctly, or not. Because one was like AT&T against because they wanted to for FirstNet, something around those lines, a midband that FCC was trying to do, like, to be open.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate you.
Right.
I forgot.
Yeah, I think that was the L band spectrum.
Yeah, I think that was the L band. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's been in the news for the better part of the last 6 months. I'd say 4 to 6 months. It's a big thing. I mean, I think it's just these are the politics of it. Just kind of working their way through. Hopefully that works out. I think the 6 gigahertz is going to be a big thing as well.
Oh yeah.
So there's spectrum on its way, but 100 megahertz channels are needed by the end of next year.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Yeah, it's just because now the IoT is going to be calling,
improving.
Right? So
AI, everything. Yeah.
Everybody wants to do AR applications, training simulations. Like you need the bandwidth for that. That stuff would be perfect.
Yeah.
So the thing about C-band, and this is why I've said to people, it's a game changer. The opportunity to make it contiguous. Right, you're starting from scratch. Nobody has 20 megahertz here, 40 megahertz there, 0 megahertz there. You're starting from the bottom, the framework of these new next generation spectrum licenses. So they're literally going to pick their spots, right? Like you got county level access, right? Zero cool. It's county.
Correct. Yeah.
It's county level. Okay, so county level, man. This is going to be big time. I think Tyrone just jumped off here. Yeah, county level is going to be huge. So if you have a 100 megahertz channel of C-band, I mean, consumer wireless, we're talking about gigabit speed in pretty much all applications.
Yeah, they'll definitely take advantage of that. Yeah.
C-band greater than CBRS?
Well, I mean, they're going to get access to most probably. Well, it's all on Verizon dependent. My guess is the consumer wireless, they'll get access to CBRS first. Why? Because it's a lot easier. It's almost as easy as LAA to get on board and deploy.
It's starting
and
LTE,
get in the hands. Right? Exactly, that too. Right? But I think CBRS they'll have access to before they have C-band access.
Oh, okay. I was thinking maybe like C-band would be a little bit better than CBRS, but it's the other way around. The only limitation of CBRS is because the power limitation, right?
No, I'm not. I'm just talking about from an access perspective.
Yeah, he's basically saying we're going to see CBRS come to fruition sooner.
For consumer wireless, especially, yes. Yeah.
And it's going to be used in private networking too.
Right, that too.
You know? Yeah. So there's going to be people connecting to this stuff like with Cox and Spectrum and Xfinity and all these other situations.
Don't say the C word around here.
That's the worst, bro. They're trash, bro. Absolutely trash. In my opinion, the potential is greatest in terms of reach and application is actually with CBRS. The capacity as it stands is actually C-band as we perceive. Because now we're getting indications that AT&T has done enough to make it so they can make a C-band move. We thought that they were hurting with so much debt that they couldn't, but it looks like they've done this. What the thing that they did last week, man? It was a bond sale or something, sale, right?
Yeah, it's a bond sale.
So Verizon did it, and then AT&T did it too. They did some share stuff. They're ready to go. They're going to be at each other. So you think 60-40 split? You think 80-20 split? I don't know, man. I just know
it all depends.
I just know that
I think they get 40 or 60. I think they'll get 40 or 60 megahertz. AT&T will. I really do.
Yeah,
I think that's so much. Yeah.
I would think like 50. I would say 50, to be honest. Man, 50 is probably AT&T.
I don't want to see Verizon with a skimpy channel, because then that's a Band-Aid. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see AT&T with a skimpy channel. I want both of them with a wider channel. And at the same time, I want the 2.5 channel at T-Mobile to be large. Wherever they have 100 plus, man. Now can they divvy it up to where they can put 100 to N and R, and then whatever residual they can leave on LTE for a while because they don't want a DSS?
Absolutely. So once standalone comes into fruition, the more spectrum they have, they can put more on 5G and just a little bit more on the LTE side. It doesn't have to be what it is now. you're gonna have bandwidth increases on both.
That's better.
I like C-band, man. The potential. I like C-band.
Yeah.
I really do. The CBRS situation, like we've already had CBRS on our phones. We just haven't seen it because it's only been unlicensed. Carriers have been reluctant to use it because of the power. You know, it's really situational. They're actually Verizon prefers to launch millimeter wave because if you're going to have limited range, you might as well push out 3 gigs per second. You know what I'm saying?
High
like,
capacity,
yeah, makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
I hotspotted millimeter wave on my Moto Edge Plus. I connected 4 devices to the hotspot, and each one got like 300 megabits per second.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool.
After about 10 minutes of it, I burned my hand on the Moto Edge Plus. It was cooking, dog.
Was it really?
Oh, it got so hot.
Millimeter wave takes a lot of energy.
Well, I was pushing it to those 4 devices, right? Yeah. So my hotspot was on. Hotspot by itself is a cooker, right? Okay, so it's producing heat. It's taxing the modem. It's pushing out a signal beyond what it's receiving. All right, so it's transmitting a 5 gigahertz channel for these devices in my car. Dude, 10 minutes of testing, and I couldn't hold it anymore. I had to take it out the case. It actually, you know what it did? Zero Cool. It forced off of millimeter wave and jumped to 4G LTE.
That's the other thing that I kind of want to go back to modems a little bit. So when your modem gets hot, you know, just as your phone gets hot, right? It can't handle the transmit power. The transmit connection on your modem cannot handle it, so it has to dial it back to LTE speed. Now, that's one of the reasons why that is because the 865 has external X55 modem. That's going to change next year, you know, as an integrated SoC system on chip with the 875 and X60 modem. Okay, you're not going to have those issues with the X60 modem. Why? Because it's drawing less. I keep on saying this. It draws less transmitter power to get that beamforming connection, and that's the whole thing. This is what I want to keep on reiterating about beamforming technology. You don't need that much modem transmit power to receive a signal.
It's awesome
because the tower's doing it for you,
improving the efficiency of the whole connection.
Exactly. Yes.
You know, the quality of connection, the RSRP, everything will be so much better.
The handoffs, cell edge, everything. Yeah.
And Zero Cool, you're really the guy to ask. Any interference concerns with CBRS or C-band?
So, excuse me. C-band, no. CBRS, not until the power is boosted. Right now, no, because the power is not enough to cause interference. But once the power is boosted, that may depending on the frequency range. But I know some utility companies will utilize that for their meters, like smart meters and stuff.
Gotcha.
But it's not going to be that bad, to be honest with you. It really is.
So they'll be able to work around it within just normal RF configuration and stuff.
Exactly. And here's the reason why: because that stuff is also licensed, right? Versus a 2.5 signal where you have like I said earlier, unlicensed 2.4 on Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Okay, it's a lot more to just that caused that interference and stuff. So. Well, thank you, Jose. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, Sebi, would you mind reading that for us, please, and giving Jose a shout out?
Yeah, this live stream is absolutely tremendous.
It is tremendous.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you, Jose. Appreciate it, brother. The reason why I asked about the interference is because we know that they're probably not going to decommission LTE CBRS sites. They'll continue running those small cells. And I hear that, you know, like rooftop sites, they technically defined as a macro, right? So they're technically deploying. If they were going to modify that configuration, would it literally just be them kicking up the power?
Well, it's not just that, but here's the other thing I want to reiterate when it comes to interference. Let's say if you have an interfere on just maybe 2 or 5 megahertz of the band. The thing about with wide bandwidth channels, you can change up your center frequency. So if it is an interference issue, guess what? You can change your uplink and downlink frequencies and your center frequency, and and avoid that interference.
That's why I've always looked at the
Wi-Fi.
lower end, like the lower end range, right? You look at 3.1 to 3.3. You know, like those things, you could play with that a little bit, right?
Yes, of course.
Like
absolutely.
Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6.
Yes, absolutely. Wi-Fi 6. That's going to be a game changer because there's so much. If you take a look at a Wi-Fi analyzer on 2.4 gigahertz, there's so much interference. You have so much, everybody run their brothers using the one or two channels, right? I mean, you've seen it.
Yeah.
So with Wi-Fi 6, that goes away. Why? Why does it go away? Because there's so much channels, so many channels, so much bandwidth, wider channels, right?
You know what's crazy about that?
That just helps.
Zero Cool, the Wi-Fi 6 standard is actually designed for capacity. What we saw with the original Wi-Fi channels, they were designed for X amount of capacity, which we have exceeded. Because look at the channels, like I don't know
range,
about think about like when you first set up your Wi-Fi router, you buy a new router, you got new service somewhere, you start going into your settings, you're looking at, you pull up your Wi-Fi analyzer, you're looking at all the surrounding frequencies, all these different channels, you're like, man, this one's loaded, this one's got 4 printers, this one's got 3 routers, like this is ridiculous.
Let's got some guy's TV on it. Right?
And then you got another guy who's got one that switches. It's just floating around all these frequencies.
Yeah.
What a pain in the what. So I think with the new standard and with this new Wi-Fi 6, it just gets better managed. And then, it just works better.
Let me actually tell you how that's going to be managed. So basically with Wi-Fi 6, let's say if you're transmitting and there's another huge channel that's adjacent to you that may be transmitting, and if you set your Wi-Fi 6 to auto, it's automatically going to move to a different channel, like way far away. It's going to be better managed. It's kind of like how like an ad hoc on steroids would be. Like it's going to be better managed to where you're really not going to have that fighting for channel space. You know what I mean? So.
I'm telling you, man, I've looked at channels and saw like 17 printers. And I'm like, what is going on right now? Like,
I got mine at the low end.
Also, Wi-Fi
36,
6
man.
Yep. Also, Wi-Fi 6 has that feature to help, like, for battery, for saving battery on most devices as well.
Yes.
Like
and also has MIMO and beamforming built in. Big time. Boom.
Yeah.
It almost was. Yeah, it is a game changer.
We saw that as well.
Yes.
Remember when everybody was getting the mobile hotspot, devices that started to see MIMO and stuff? That was like, oh, we got to get these, like that. Yeah, that's a big thing. When our phones got MIMO, like people's data throughput doubled.
Yeah.
Like I remember going from 8 megabits to 20. As soon as my device was like, what would that have been, Sebi? Maybe 2015, 2014. We started getting like
2014, I would say.
Yeah. We started getting like 15, 20 megabits per second, and then we got like 2 carrier aggregation, and then it was 3, and then like these modem technologies. You guys, I hate to say it, but you may want to not get comfortable with your phones outside of a year. If you want to be on bleeding edge technology, you will be upgrading your device annually, and it's going to be very carrier-esque. A situation where you're just upgrading for your particular use case. So Verizon is going to lock out certain frequencies, and AT&T is going to lock out certain frequencies. And as soon as AT&T does DSS, or I don't think they're going to DSS, as soon as they go NR with band 14, they're telling you need to buy a phone from us. Band 30, you're buying a phone from us. That sort of thing. Unless you get an iPhone.
Yeah, it's like the Wi-Fi 6. You could do 160 megahertz channels. That'll be increased to 320 megahertz probably next year. So imagine running a 320 megahertz Wi-Fi 6 channel in your house.
Wow.
Ooh, I can do 160. I could do 160 now. Just imagine 320, right?
Yeah, double.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And with IoT, connect all things,
Yeah, it helps a lot. Also in latency and everything. Though on the terms of frequencies of like each phone is locked to each carrier, things has been changing a lot about that as well. If you're seeing on the Android side as well.
That's why I got to get an iPhone. Problem solved.
No, but I mean that has been changing on the Android side to be more simple, to be like the iPhone itself.
Right.
T-Mobile fan, there is no phone in production right now
with 3.5.
With 3.55G. You will have band 48, sure, but you do not have N48.
Yeah.
That will likely be something that we'll maybe hear about in 2022 or something. Like, seriously, 2021 is going to be the year of 2.5. It'll be the year of CBRS, and then it'll be followed by the year of C-band. Transition of CBRS to 5G through DSS, maybe 2022. Seriously, I can't see it playing out any other way. So, just my 2 cents. I've been wrong a lot, but whatever.
It all depends. I mean, though since it supports LTE, NR can be also supported, but via software upgrade.
Sure.
So keep that in mind.
Yeah. All right. So C-band greater than CBRS greater than 2.5, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just everything about that spectrum it's like liquid gold. That's why the satellite companies grabbed that first, right? Especially from Spectrum and Telesat, right? It's you got high power, continuous spectrum, wide bandwidth. If you think about Verizon's motto, ultra wideband, they're going to be able to apply those RF configurations to C-band. So what I mean by that is the same the same ultra wideband configurations that they're doing with millimeter wave, the RF configuration. They're going to be able to apply those same RF parameters to C-band.
Makes sense.
Yep, which is an amazing thing.
There was one more thing I wanted to say. Time frame. I know some of you were asking about when we'll see CBRS and C-band. CBRS, probably the summer, right? Are we expecting early Q3, is it? For CBRS?
Yeah,
early
I
Q3?
Think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
We'll start getting some markets like where they'll be doing licensed CBRS. So it'll be going up large scale. C-band 2022. Just go ahead and put that on your calendar for Q1 of 2022. Test markets will be launched in December, January, going from 2021 to 2022. So,
I think so.
But what I've seen, Zero Cool, is testing can be completed in a number of weeks. So we may start to see city deployments and county deployments by March,
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's a process. So it's not just like the testing, but like the manufacturers like Nokia, Ericsson, they have to make the radios for it, right?
I think also get approval of the FCC, approval of permits,
and FCC
everything.
approval, permits, and it's and also your EME submits, which is your emission standard submits on that. That takes time. So it's usually it usually takes about 2 to 3 months at the minimum to do, but it goes pretty quick. About 2 to 3 months.
Very excited. That's why I said, like, for now, everybody's all excited about C-band because of the potential, but we really have to put our eyes on CBRS. That's really where eyes should be for like bridging LTE to 5G.
I'm just more excited. I mean, I'm really excited about C-band. Don't get me wrong. But me being an RF, I'm more excited once that 3.1 to 3.3, because if you think about it, you can have a carrier aggregation going from 3.1 to 3.7 off a single radio head.
3 channels.
What?
Right?
Yeah. You can have a 3-channel carrier from 3.1, 3.5, 3.7, high capacity, high bandwidth channels, off a single radio head. Once the FCC releases that auction,
The one thing that I've been hearing about, thing I've been hearing about is how Ericsson plans to get ahead. Like they are going to probably be the vendor that puts this together on the software side and the hardware side. Don't be surprised if the deal with Verizon and AT&T magnifies due to the mid-band deployments that we see over the next 2 to 3 years. Like
Also
Nokia, I really think Nokia is going to get pushed back even further. You know,
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to make a prediction.
Oh no, I don't.
How do you say it? How do you say it? I'm going to make a prediction. Is that what you say?
I do that sometimes.
You do say that.
Yeah.
You do say that.
I do.
Okay. Say that.
All right. And sometimes I say, I'm going to go on the record.
I'll just make a prediction. I'm not going on the record yet. I'm going to make a prediction that AT&T and Verizon will have some sort of C-band CBRS roaming agreement.
Dang.
Look at Sneed's face. Do you see it? I'm going to see I just screenshot. Oh, yeah. Because if you think about it, they'll have enough of both. They're already doing the roaming on 850. So here's the thing. With roaming, you need roaming on low band. You need roaming on mid band. The millimeter wave is right now too spread out, but they can do the roaming on mid band, no problem, if each carrier gets enough of C band.
Yeah, could be.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
You're shaking up my brain, dude.
Yeah, dude. Especially, I'm being serious. Especially when it happens, because I'll tell you why. We're moving from Remember when the whole HSPA roaming was between AT&T and T-Mobile? Now it's all on one universal LTE and 5G lane, right? It's all compatible. It's just 5G SA spectrum, right? So all you're doing is just really setting in roaming agreements for different frequencies, in different areas, right? So AT&T and T-Mobile, AT&T and Verizon, if you're listening, please set up a C-band national roaming agreement and to benefit both of you guys, because that'll be nice to see.
Your conscience is speaking. Please don't. I mean, it all depends, to be honest. I would say it would be better if all three have like a roaming.
I would get on board with that. I really would help T-Mobile customers. I would be definitely on board with that.
It just needs to be.
It's costly. Roaming is costly, though.
But if it's reciprocal, and the market share is balanced, is it hurting?
Yeah, we hope that.
Or win. It's like a win-win situation for everyone.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Consumers, all three companies, everything will be better, especially in terms of 5G deployment, AR, everything.
The problem is just getting all carriers to agree,
Yeah.
They have to have the same vision. There must be an agreement of what they're trying to accomplish, because
with 5G.
Because as of right now, Verizon wants no part of low band 5G.
At all.
You know what I'm saying? So that puts them away from everyone. Because that's something important for T-Mobile. It's something important for AT&T. So they're already, you have that discrepancy. And then mid-band wise, Verizon is strapped, right? So they're like stuck right now. That's why they've been doing the millimeter wave like there's no tomorrow. Because what do you want to sit around and wait? They've got a year and a half before they can deploy it. So, and that's if and when they get the C-band. So you're like, well, let's just build out millimeter wave, because this is going to be for 5G and 6G. So, and look, if AT&T and Verizon had a roaming agreement for mid-band 5G, I don't like what that could do to T-Mobile's situation, because here's my
competition.
Here's my concern. Okay, T-Mobile has, in my estimation, 16 months. It's now 15 because I started talking about this a couple months ago. They have 15 months to close the network gap and create a scenario where they have the highest capacity network in places where the 2.5 is, substantial. If they don't effectively do that in the next year and a half, the window closes. The window literally slams shut, because Verizon is not going to spend $25 billion on spectrum to just slowly roll it out. You will see that the X factor for how fast Verizon could deploy it is how much their techs are allowed to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to be the only thing that's going to slow Verizon down, is literally you can't work past midnight on a tower. You know what I'm saying? Unless it's an emergency. You know, you know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
Outside of that, shit, I bet you they wish they had 24-hour work crews. They'd be out there. I bet you they would.
Yeah, it's we don't let from Verizon perspective or any carrier, we don't let the crews work at night just due to safety concerns. But it's only in times of emergency if, for example, if on fire services or something like that, or police or whatever. So.
Right. Emergency situations only. I think the best case scenario is T-Mobile closes the network gap. I really feel they're still going to have coverage issues. I'm sorry, guys. Look, I'm always going to shoot you straight. I'm always going to tell you how I really feel. I don't hold back. If there are coverage issues where you live today for T-Mobile, it's probably not really going to change unless you look out and get a Band 71 upgrade near you.
Yeah.
That's really your only hope. They're not building tower sites like you think they are. Hopefully they keep more than we initially think they will. Like they'll keep sites in certain states are going to be crucial, especially the Chantel deal. That's going to be a big piece of this. The Swiftel would be nice too. Put the cherry on top, we've talked about that zero cool RF, but they're hurting for money. I don't know how they're going to pull it off. They're the underdog still when it comes to the networking piece, but at least they have an ace in the hole in a mid band that makes them a unique. Yeah, they do have an opportunity for sure.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it all depends. Like like we see, like on each quarter, if the next quarter, for example, T-Vision sells well because they fix maybe current issues. Who knows? If it sells well, T-Mobile Home Internet Service sells well, and they go like a bit up, especially on revenue. That helps. It all depends on the next quarter, to be honest, to see at least have a vision.
Sebi, I would like to conclude, and I know me and you, sometimes we disagree on certain things, but we always respect each other's opinions.
Yeah.
But I think T-Mobile's not being honest about their financials in quarter 3. The whole customer ads, the 2 million and all that stuff. I ain't buying it, bro. Because there's so many things that contradict that quarter's earnings. You know what I'm saying? Like that. I'm just looking at the ads. The money, I mean, that's what it is. So I'm good with that. Actually, the money adds up 100%. They just consumed Sprint. You should see a revenue spike, right? I'm good with that. But the overhead is still there. They were paying rent at places where they couldn't break leases. You know what I'm saying? So there are still Sprint stores and there's still employees there and so on. I think they're hurting for money because they took from their employees. They laid people off, closed stores, and they restructured commissions at retail. And they downgraded a lot of positions from management down to assistant management down to retail sales. They did a lot of that reshuffling. Those are drastic measures at a company that said that they were going to create jobs, which they haven't yet, right? They haven't created the, what they say, net gain of customers of employees, right? Okay, so we haven't seen that yet. So this is still part of the storm, is what I'm saying, right?
No, of course. No, like I told you before, Sneed, each merger has been first the storm. Later we see like how it will be done, and later it will be calm.
Hopefully the calm comes sooner than later. The investment kicks up. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you. Sebi, what do you think of my statement? They got 15 months to close the gap. What do you think?
It's fair. It's totally fair. It's totally fair. Like I told you, Circle RF said, if they both like the sprint team, old sprint team of M41 and also T-Mobile like work together, train together, and they deploy in a fast pace. It could be also like a team. How would say like a team combo, like something combo that both teams have like the same timing. If you understand me.
Yeah.
It's possible that everything will be fine.
That's pretty much what it is. Basically, what's happening is we're undergoing a what we call a unification effort, which will be complete and we'll be one team through and through January 1st. So
yeah. No, but I mean, I say also like a
like
team
ideas and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like ideas, everything. It's not like
Exactly.
You're like away from the team.
I'm not telling them any secrets. They can't get nothing out of me. I don't care what they do.
But I would love to like for me, I would hope like T-Mobile gets better, especially because I would like to see competition. Not only two carriers and the rest like that. It's because before, if you remember, AT&T and Verizon was more expensive than it was today, especially in the 3G.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Yeah, true.
Or unless you want the US to become the next Canada.
That's right.
Can you pull up T-Mobile fans' last comment? I don't know. Just give your 2 cents about that.
What?
Oh, come on, bro. All right. So
Who is this guy?
T-Mobile fan, we got to talk, bro. First of all, we need them to close the gap. All right. Second of all, that is being relevant by closing the gap, right? Because right now there is a discrepancy in national coverage. Right now there's a discrepancy in network performance. We're saying we want that to close, right? Yeah. Okay. And lastly, your Kickstarter plan. Come on, bro. Like, come on. I mean, look. Okay, so he's paying for his Kickstarter plan, so I'm not mad at him. But there are people paying taxes on theirs. That's it. They're not paying money. They're paying sales tax. $6, dog. So those people got to go somewhere else and do something else for their wireless solutions. And the last thing, do a spell check, bruh. Peace is with I-E-C-E-E when you use it like this. All right? Plan in peace, as in pieces, right? Or do you want it to rest in peace? What are you trying to say, bro?
Let me ask you something, T-Mobile fan. Like, if people are paying just taxes and just immediately $25, for their plan, how do you expect T-Mobile to improve on their capex and network spending to improve the network to close that gap?
Yeah.
Thanks, Lawrence. Appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you. The coverage issue, Zero Cool. I want to speak to this. Thank you, Lawrence, again. That's their biggest issue, actually.
Yeah.
Contrary to popular belief, I know some people complain about congestion. Okay, it exists. Okay, I know it's not a ghost. I know it exists. Okay, there are some capacity issues in the U.S. for T-Mobile in certain large places. I get it, but that's not their problem nationally. Their problem nationally in every state, T-Mobile has coverage issues in every state. Okay, if I take Ohio for example. All I have to do is drive 10 miles, and I have no T-Mobile signal for the next 3 miles. That's a problem, right? So AT&T has LTE, and Verizon has LTE for 2 of those 3 miles. Verizon goes down to call only, and then AT&T goes down to HSPA for that last mile. And then T-Mobile kicks up again with Band 12. That stuff can't happen. So that's T-Mobile's biggest problem. This merger doesn't address that. You see what I'm saying?
No, it doesn't, because if you take a look at the coverage map, pre-merger, they have a lot of coverage spots that are actually in the same areas, right? A lot of redundancy. Think about it. We're decomming 20 to 30. Actually, that increased. It used to be 20,000. Now it's 35,000 towers. Yeah. Why? Due to overlapping coverage and not just that, and it's just we don't need duplicate sites, right, to save on the synergies, right? It's just, and that's the nature of the game,
T-Mobile fan, nobody's angry at you, bro. You pay your bill. You're good. You're good. We're talking about the people that are getting a free line. Well, even if you're getting a free line, you're doing nothing wrong. But the problem is from a business standpoint, you're not helping the company, right? You're out for your best interest. You're trying to get free lines, right, Sebi?
Yeah.
There's a tug of war in wireless. You want the best deal. Your carrier wants the highest ARPU. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's kind of a tug of war. You don't want to spend too much. They want you to spend more.
Yeah.
You know what? That's what I'm gonna do, man. That's what I'm gonna have to do. My next video trip, Speed with Sneed. I'm gonna have to show people how a situation like mine, as soon as I leave the county, there's no signal. That's not going to change with the merger because Sprint doesn't have signal either. So there's no keep site there,
Ooh.
you know? Yeah, there's no improvement. What is going on, Zero Cool?
What?
You got like a show going on you were watching or something? Or
No, just a stupid message.
Notification.
Yeah. No,
any word if the taxes and fees are being sunsetted this year on Pink? Doubt it. They're gonna try to keep things where they're at for a while.
Yeah.
They're gonna have some really ticked off people, Sebi. If we woke up one morning and Mike Sievert goes, Hey, John Fryer, could you do me a favor? Could you go in front of 100 million people and tell them they got to start paying taxes now?
Taxes and fees.
Yeah, that would be so bad.
How much would that affect the average bill? $20.
Yeah.
You know, which is pretty substantial. I especially in today's economic times, right? People are very sensitive to those things.
Yeah. Until the economy gets better, not worth it.
And what if they were to improve the value proposition? Hey, tax and fees are here. This sucks. Have a free 3-month T-Vision trial. Have 3 months free.
Don't give me any ideas, man. Don't give me any ideas.
That won't help. To be honest, that won't help.
I know, dude. I don't know how they'd spin it. You know.
Of course, that's
what John was always able to do, right? Spin it.
Yeah, spin it. No, that's fine. But right now, because of the economy, that's the issue. It's more limited.
What'd you guys think of today's videos? I live streamed basically 80 minutes of speed testing. I covered 15 miles of city driving. I drove through woods. I drove through neighborhoods. I drove through shopping areas. I did the whole gamut. What'd you think of that, Zero Cool?
It was really good. You know, one of the things that we want to keep continuous focus on is where is the network now? Where is it going? Where's it headed? And what can it become? Those three things, and that's the focus of what we try to do here on the show. We try to go all three carriers. Where are they at now? What are they going to do in the future? Where will they go? Right. So I think it's good. It's a great video. It shows, especially on T-Mobile, it shows the need that they do need density. Right. A lot more towers in the area. It shows great. On the AT&T piece, you just and not just you, but every Carlos, Hector. It shows the great capacity that AT&T shows in a lot of markets, right?
Wow, man, AT&T.
It's tremendous, yeah. So it also it shows Verizon's reliability. The old trusty steed of wireless, right? So it kind of shows a current footprint of where the carriers are at now and where they need to go.
T-Mobile is fast. T-Mobile is fast in the experience. I don't know, Sebi, were you able to follow along the whole trip?
More or less, to be honest. I wasn't there. I was replaying it, to be honest.
Okay, so what'd you think of the video since you got to see it on replay?
A bit, not everything, but yeah, everything was fine. I like where you were saying Verizon isn't the fastest, but it's the most how would say consistent.
It is consistent.
It was consistent. Well, AT&T was the fastest, but also had some parts that were hit or miss. Same with T-Mobile. T-Mobile was, the uplink, but the downlink both were fine, to be honest. AT&T and T-Mobile. Verizon was the most consistent of all, especially in uplink.
You can have any carrier here in the CLE, and you'll be good. The goal is to have a reliable carrier that always works for everything you need to do. I think I proved that today with my test. If you drove through, the southern part of the county, and I went all the way to the northern part of the county. I went through about 15, 16 miles. It's good. You're good. You can pick your carrier, which is exactly where we need to be. The only thing that really aggravated me were two things, actually. It was the AT&T uplink was unpredictable and low. And the T-Mobile video throttle, which is that's more of a I don't even know.
normal
How would you
thing.
qualify that? That's not really a network thing, right? It's like it's more of a systems thing. Like they've decided to go with that, you know?
It's a measure of I call it like a measure of restriction, right? So, but both those things, especially on the uplink, will be solved with SA. The video, again, that will also be solved on more bandwidth along with SA, right?
So when network slicing is active.
Exactly, yeah. Network slicing along with SA. That
okay. That
the
makes sense.
throttling, the taking down to 480p. That keyword should be a thing of the past.
So here's what T-Mobile's doing to remedy that. So they're going to throttle you. It's going to happen unless you have, Sebi, what plan is it that you have?
T-Mobile One.
That seems to be the one that's kind of like rolling freely.
Yeah, it's on throttle. I can get also 4K.
Yeah, so you have you're good. You have no concerns for video playback. But for anybody on Magenta or Essentials, you're like, if you start getting buffering video, what I'm noticing is YouTube's good. They give you a surge. It spikes to 40 megabits for first 2 or 3 seconds. And then it dips really hard down to 1.5 and 2 to 2.3. If you're watching YouTube, you're not going to buffer 720p or 1080p likely. You're going to have trouble with Hulu. You're going to have trouble with YouTube Live. You're going to have trouble with Disney Plus.
Periscope.
Yeah, anything that has a long duration video where that surge doesn't last. That surge gets the video ahead, but then it's 2 megs.
You're high bandwidth applications.
It also because it's for example, Twitch or YouTube Live is live. You cannot overhead. You cannot have an overhead like a normal video.
Right. You can't necessarily pause it.
Yeah.
So basically, on these, we kind of classify that under what we call. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's a video.
Temporarily?
We call it in a KPIs, it's like a video threshold index. So basically you rate you have your, what they call it, video best speed.
Mm-hmm.
So on a live, that's kind of like what we strive for, but it's hard, again, when you don't have the density and the needed bandwidth everywhere. So, but we do take a look at that. We do measure it versus something where you just, playing off a website or YouTube, because we try to give the applications that are live, more in priority. But sometimes if you don't have the resources, that's not always the case.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Man, it's standalone 5G is going to be cool, man.
Exactly, because
that's also what I'm waiting for.
With standalone, the resources are taken care of for you. It's less stress on the core of it, because the core is managing all that right now. With SA, your radio head is actually in more control over what you do on your phone, and the actual video index and throughput. So it's more throughput and control at the head end versus the back end. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
it's like having for AI. For AI, if you use the CPU, it stresses the CPU. That's why they created a separate chip that handles AI.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Sure,
okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
I really like AT&T for the video playback. Just having that basically real unlimited, application. And by the way, guys, I love AT&T on the Pixel 5. It's really nice. It's a really nice experience. Actually, you know what? I didn't use T-Mobile yet on here. So it's been 3 weeks. I've used AT&T in this phone, and I used it for 4 weeks with Verizon. Verizon was good. It's really nice on AT&T. If you like AT&T as a provider and you like the Google phone, this is a go. This is a winner. The combination of AT&T and this Google phone is solid. Don't listen to Carlos. All right, I know he hates the Google Pixel. I'm telling you guys, this is a good situation. Carlos, I love you, bro. You're my brother, bro. I'm just playing with you. I'm just saying it's a good phone. All right. It's not an 8 series. I got you. That's legit. If you're a content creator, it's a no-go. If you're not a content creator, this is a 100% go. Or if it's your secondary phone, winner, chicken dinner, dog. Seriously, This is a winner.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm using the S20 Plus on T-Mobile. That's cool because I got the N41 going on. It's limited. I don't find it much, but it's good. You're getting 60 megahertz of bandwidth. It's kind of cool, dude. In Verizon, I'm using the Moto Edge Plus. So that's my current setup. I'm looking at an LG V60. I think I'm going to pull the trigger. Hector has convinced me that the RF solutions are there. Updates came. So I'm thinking about it. I know. Zero Cool, please. I want the headphone jack. I want the 5,000 milliamp hour battery. And I want the quad deck. Sue me, okay? Sue me.
Okay, let me sue you.
Sue me. All right. And
I mean, I hope it works. That's the only thing I would say because LG.
Dude, Hector told me it's good now.
I mean, I hope so. I don't know. I haven't used like an LG since a long time.
What are you using right now, Sebi? What are you pushing?
Right now I'm mostly a Samsung guy, but the Google Pixel I really like, especially because it's easy to customize. I have like, for example, my Google Pixel 4 with Graphene OS.
Jose says you get the 5G logo. It's absolutely tremendous.
Tremendous.
Jose, you are tremendous. Oh, and Jose, ¿cómo se dice absolutely tremendous? How do I put that together, bro, in Espanol? How do I do that? Sebi, how do I do that?
Absolutely tremendous. Okay, absolutamente tremendo.
That's right, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit him with that one of these days on the Periscope, man. You guys want to do a Periscope after party? Just hang out?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Yeah,
I'll launch one if you guys want to hang out. Let's do it. I charged up my iPhone. That piece of junk is ready to go. Let's do it. Hashtag ravioli gang if you're watching this while you were eating or if you're hungry. Hashtag mod squad if you got a blue wrench. Hashtag Patreon crew if you're a Patreon member. Thank you to all who donated. I know Jar Cohen, was one of the early donators. I think we had donations from Sis. Man, I wish it tracked them, man. Seriously. Chanel 808 Life. Lawrence, thank you.
Lawrence.
Jose.
Okay, let me see if I can.
I can't go back anymore, man. Thank you guys for donating.
John, RG Tech.
Yeah.
Big Lou. Jimmy Sis. Jamie Johnson. Another of Jimmy Sis. That's the only ones I can see.
Appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who is here watching this in the live. Hashtag 2Live crew. Hashtag replay crew if you're watching this on replay. We will be heading over to Periscope to just hang out at the after party. Hopefully Carlos, comes by and graces his presence. I don't know where he is right now, but we'll have some fun. Sebi, Zero Cool, hopefully we'll see you there as well. Come hang out with us over there.
Maybe.
Yeah. Check us out on Twitter at Sneed Tech if you want to interact in that way. Also, the podcast, if you like audio only, we're on all your favorite podcast catchers. So Google, Apple, Spotify, Anchor. There's a bunch of them. Check us out. Links in the description box below. That's it. Happy Sunday to all. I hope your football team won. If they didn't, sucks to suck. Get over it. Monday starts another week. And
maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Exactly. Thank you guys for watching. Zero Cooler F, thank you for being here. Thank you, Sebi. Appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome.
Happy to be here.
Big shout out to Tyrone from Tech Life and the Moose for coming through. Mark, have a good night. We out this piece. Peace.
Take care, guys.